Happy high A and double A opening day to all you folks out there who are as excited as we are. Crazy slate of pitchers throwing today on this Friday, April 5th. We could do a whole episode on just the pitchers that are throwing today, Jack, but instead, we are actually talking about the most loaded minor league lineups, or just rosters, I should say, across each level. We had to wait for the lower levels and double A to straggle along a little bit and finalize all that good stuff. Of course, we've had triple A underway for a little over a week now, or a little less than a week now, but it's really one of my favorite episodes of the year because it gives you a guide to know where to follow. And if you're just scrolling through MILB TV, hopefully we can kind of help you say, oh, I should definitely go throw this game on and go see a ridiculous lineup or a potentially really talented staff any single day that team may be in town. Yeah. We're going to try to give you a little primer here and tell you which teams we're most excited to monitor.
Yeah, 100%. This is, I'm with you. This is one of my favorite episodes of the year. Like, this is one of those that I circle because it's really fun popping on MILB TV on the iPad when you've got MLB TV going on like the TV. So I'll walk you through my nightly setup when I get home. So, I get home, I tend to get home around like 10 o'clock, right? So that's when the late slate is starting up. So I'll get home at 10. And what I'll do is I'll go onto my Roku, I'll click MLB TV, I'll catch like the end of big inning. But if there's a great pitching matchup in Seattle or LA or San Francisco, I'm going to go catch that. I'm going to go watch the starting pitchers. On the iPad, I pull up MILB TV and I just go to the most enticing roster that I know. The lineup that's going to feature the most prospects, and I'm going to go watch them. Is it a AAA game? I don't know. Is it a high A game? I don't know. It's a nightly basis thing, and this is almost like my what to watch primer that we build out at the beginning of the year, and I'll keep tabs on it throughout the year.
Yeah, it's like my version of being able to scroll through Netflix now. Like I can't do that as much anymore just because I know there's some sort of minor league game out there that I could care about, especially in the West Coast. I'm as a night owl as well. And that's usually when I like to do the prospect writing and a lot of the write-ups kind of while I have a game on in the background. It's nice this episode actually helps me because I have an idea of like who's on what team. But when we do these episodes, it really nails it in my head of, oh yeah, that team has a lot of talent. Oh yeah, we were talking about that team is maybe the best in the minors. And so I'm going to be a little bit more inclined to throw it on. And with the lower levels and, all the way up to AAA, you get a lot of late West Coast fun games to monitor, but we'll kind of keep you briefed on everything and every team, because I know a lot of listeners have a minor league team in their area. It's also helpful to know who's coming to town and when it's worth it to, go bring the family and go catch a game, or just go by yourself and catch one as well and see the future stars of Major League Baseball. So Jack, you compiled some of your favorite teams. We're going to walk through kind of what makes them so good. And then I think at the end, I would love to highlight, like each of us highlight maybe who we think is the most exciting team and see if we kind of agree there.
I'm going to start with the most exciting team.
Like besides Norfolk, that's
okay.
ridiculous.
Yeah. So the exciting non-Norfolk team. And before we get into Norfolk and like the rest of AAA, I've got it sorted by level. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 AAA teams. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 AA teams. And I've got 4 high A teams and 4 low A teams. But Norfolk is obviously the leader. I want to walk through some MLB teams that I think Norfolk can beat if they run Chase McDermott or Cade Povich to the mound. And I said,
how about a Chase McDermott, Cade Povich like piggyback?
Perfect. Let's do that against.
That's how I think they'd have to do it.
Yeah. So like, let's do that against like this team's 5-starter or 4-starter, right? And I'm going to ask you just yes or no, can Norfolk beat this team? And this is a different conversation than this college team can beat this NBA team, or this college team can beat this NFL team.
Which is my least favorite conversation in sports, by the way.
It doesn't happen. But the difference between a college team and a AAA team is Jackson Holliday would have a 2,500 OPS in college baseball right now.
Yes.
There's a big difference here.
I actually talked about that with Kobe Mayo on the episode. I'm like, do you ever wonder with what you did right away in pro ball, do you ever wonder what it would have been like if you went to UF? And he's like, yes, but I've had to like shut that down because it used to bother me so much sometimes, because Judd Fabian being out there as well. And they kind of talk about it here and there. And like, I'm like, dude, Kobe, you would have put up some scary numbers.
You would have put up
like,
Chris Bryant numbers.
Maybe, you never know, being humble, but I'm like, no, it would have been crazy. But to the point of like, because I've seen a lot of comments kind of asking about that. In terms of, how would Norfolk do against a big league team? The big difference and what would be the problem for them is the second you get to the bullpen, you're going to get teed off on, and then they'd blow that lead. So that's why I'm like, if you have McDermott, Povich piggybacking, excuse me, I think that gives you a legit shot. And then like one or two of your best bullpen arms. Let's say if it's a must-win game and they can put all their best arms forward, I think that's the way to go about it here and see who they could beat.
So let's do it. A depleted Cincinnati Reds. I don't think they're beating the Cincinnati Reds. So I've got the NL Central up top. NL East, though, they're beating the Nats if like Trevor Williams starts.
Oh, I think they're teeing off on Trevor Williams. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're beating the Nats. They're beating the Marlins. We don't need to even get deep.
Well, everyone's beating the Marlins right now. The only time, you said a 4 or 5 starter, right? Because like Luzardo is going to carve through them pretty good, I think.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. They run out. I mean, AJ Puck.
Hey, I say AJ Puck. Yeah, no, that's a loss for the Marlins.
So that's 2 of them. I don't think they're beating the Mets. Like that Alonso, Lindor, like you're just not beating the New York Mets. They're beating the Rockies. So we're at 3 teams at this point. Mm-hmm. Jumping to the AL East, I don't think they're beating anybody in the American League East. AL Central, if the Guardians ran Carlos Carrasco out, you've seen that lineup. Are they beating the Cleveland Guardians?
That lineup's not bad. Yeah, I think they could beat Cookie Carrasco, but Carrasco's been throwing well. Yeah, I think that'd be a good one. I'll give that one a toss up.
Are they beating the White Sox when they run out Flexen or Soroka? Yes,
absolutely.
So we're at 4 teams at this point, right? And then you jump to the American League West. They're beating the A's. I don't think they're beating the Angels, but they're beating the A's.
Yeah.
So that's 5 or 6 teams that the Norfolk Tides could realistically beat if they ran out their best against the 4 or 5 starter of a major league team.
If you got Seth Johnson up there as well, and coming out of the pen, I do think that they could take at least 5 big league teams. That's pretty funny.
It is pretty funny.
And I hate that argument because I'm like, it's so outrageous, but in this instance, it's really not.
Norfolk's outrageous. That's the thing.
Well, they were disappointing last night. They scored 9 runs. And by the way, they only won by 1. They covered at the back end. They covered their butts, got the win. Disappointing to only score 9 runs. But on the serious note, and the one concern would be that they get teed off on. Like even McDermott was not perfect last night. I mean, 5 walks was tough. The command is just going to continue to be the question here. The stuff is just so good. So I mean, the first start he managed it. This last start he didn't. That's kind of just going to be the question. But what I do love about this Norfolk team is, I mean, they could come back in any instance, right? Like they're always out. If they're down 4 or 5 runs, they're never out of it. And if they're up, like they could give up the lead and then have no problem tacking more runs back on. They kind of did both yesterday. Again, though, you got a Kjerstad homer, you had a Mayo homer, and you had. Did we get another Stowers homer? No Stowers homer yesterday. Finally, welcome back to earth, Kyle Stowers. But it's just crazy to see this team continuing to rake every single day. It was a 107-mile-an-hour homer off of Prelander Baroa from Kobe Mayo, which put them ahead and ended up giving them the win. It's just crazy stuff.
Yeah, so just kind of giving you the 4-on-1 on their roster. Notable arms in there. You've got Brian Baker that's active. You got Justin Armbruster that's active. But the big 2 are McDermott and Povich, like we mentioned. Bruce Zimmerman is also throwing for them. And not to mention you got John Means on a rehab too. So that's interesting. Notable infielders, Holiday, Mayo, Norby, obviously, although Norby's playing a lot of outfield. And then Nick Maton is there. I think Nick Maton's a solid AAA player. Mm-hmm. And then the outfield, Peyton Burdick's a solid AAA player. But then you got Heston Kjerstad, Kyle Stowers, Terrin Vavra is on their IL. Ryan McKenna is down there right now. It's ridiculous what they've got going on in Norfolk.
And Seth will be there soon, I think. So the pitching is going to get a little bit better as well.
More on Seth in a moment. But the second team that I want to get to is the Iowa Cubs. Iowa's got some stuff to them. And like Hayden Wesneski is down there. Keegan Thompson is down there. But, they've got guys that throw hard, man, like Cam Sanders. Ben Leeper is on the 60 for them. But like, I don't know if he comes back at any point this year, that could be an interesting reliever to watch. But then you jump to the bats and it's Matt Mervis, BJ Murray, Owen Casey, Alexander Canario, Pete Crow Armstrong, Brennan Davis is on their IL, Then you got guys like Luis Vasquez and Jake Slaughter and Chase Strumpf. And hell, man, David Bodie is on their bench. Kurt Casale is playing for them. They have a bunch of bats that are like interesting for AAA.
Even Luis Vasquez is a 40 guy. And I know he's off to a slow start. Did you say Vasquez?
Yep.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know if you mixed him in there, but I mean, even he's intriguing. And then anytime Valencia is on the bump, I'm tuned in. I want to see that guy throw hard. But PCA also stringing together some good ABs. Went yard yesterday, 3 straight games with an extra base hit. Already has 3 bags. You'll love to see that.
Yeah. Toledo is another one that I wanted to highlight here. The pitching is so. Like Mason Englert is down there now. Matt Manning is technically headed back at this point.
After throwing 5 no-hit innings or 6?
5 2/3 no-hit, which is a choice for sure. But like Kiter Montero is down there as well. And Montero's a guy that I know a lot of prospect people with the Tigers really enjoy. And then you jump to the bats. Dylan Dingler is there. Jace Young is there. Just went yard. Justin Henry Malloy. How about Justice Bigby? And then you kind of go back to the good AAA players. Keston Hiura is now a Toledo Mud Hen. Buddy Kennedy is there. Ryan Kreidler is a guy that should probably be playing shortstop for the Tigers, but they got to pay that other guy $20 million to play short and kind of stink with the bat. Edis Leonard is also there. Wencio Perez is there. Then Akil Badu, Bly Madris, Ryan Valade, they're all active. So that is a fun assortment of bats.
Absolutely. I think it's underrated. Like, they're not a lot of like highly regarded prospects that get a bunch of shine, but they're guys that put together good ABs. And I think there's a lot of big leaguers on that team.
100%. Reminder that this is a minor league podcast too, not just a prospect podcast. It's a minor league podcast.
Yes.
The Syracuse Mets. Wow. Shintaro Fujinami, but notable pitchers, Dominic Hamill. How about Christian Scott? How about Mike Vassell? And then Luis Angel Acuna, Mark Vientos still, Drew Gilbert is there. There's prospect intrigue with Syracuse.
I can't believe you didn't mention Joey Lucchesi. I think he's already back up now. Is he up now? I don't even know. He's back and forth too.
On Syracuse roster.
You mentioned John Duplantier.
I did not mention John Duplantier. I also didn't mention Bryce Montes de Oca because he's on the 60-day.
Throws 108 miles an hour. No, but the trio of Luis Angel Acuna, Drew Gilbert, and even just Mark Vientos in that fold as well is just super fun. There's a lot of prospect intrigue, and then some vets mixed in there also.
Yeah. And then the last AAA team that I want to go over is the Buffalo Bisons of the Toronto Blue Jays. You want to talk prospect pedigree in here. Holy shit. Pitching wise, I'm just going through alphabetically. I've got their roster pulled up. Connor Cook is on this team. Chad Dallas, Hagen Danner are on this team. I think Mason Fluharty is an interesting name to monitor, but it starts and stops with Ricky Tiedemann. You also got Yariel Rodriguez, who's down there for who knows how long, but Tiedemann, man, they come to Indy at the end of March or at the end of April. I hope I get to see Tiedemann and Yariel throw. And then you jump to what they got with Addison Barger, Orelvis Martinez, Spencer Horwitz, my guy Damiano Palmegiani, even a guy like Rafael Antigua, who swung it incredibly well last year, Cam Eden, who stole 50 bags. It's Barger and Orelvis and Tiedemann that steal the show, and 3 top 100 guys on one roster is a roster that I'm tuning into. And
Leo Jimenez is a top 10 prospect in the system for us as well. I'm pretty sure, at least right on the edge there. Intriguing. And I still think that Spencer Horwitz just hits. I know you mentioned him, but he just always gets overlooked. I feel like because there's some positional limitations and stuff, but the guy hits and hits and hits and will always be a good plug and play guy whenever they need him at the big league level. And when he's in triple, he's going to swing it. It's been a slow start for Damiano Palmegiani. I struggle so hard with his name, but I'll always be excited to watch that guy play. When he runs into him, he can really run into him.
He hits the shit out of the ball. All right. I've got, I think AA is the most trafficky one that we've got. Yeah. We've got 7 AA teams and some of the craziest rosters that I've seen in like quite some time, to be honest. Let's start with Bowie. You mentioned Seth Johnson. If Seth Johnson gets up, well, Seth Johnson is active in AA Bowie alongside Trey Sprite, alongside Alex Pham, alongside How about Kyle Bronovich, too, in the pitching rotation? And then you go to the bats. Samuel Basayo. How about Dylan Beavers and Judd Fabian on that roster, too? So the pitching is intriguing to me. I'm tuning in to the starts that I get to see Seth Johnson, Trace Bright, or Alex Pham. And then those guys are throwing to Samuel Basayo. Sign me up.
Even a Max Wagner, kind of like a borderline top 15 prospect in the system for us. John Rhodes is no slouch. Billy Cook had a nice Arizona Fall League outing there and has some intrigue. Even Frederick Ben-Cosme has some prospect intrigue. So it's just classic Orioles, but this team has more than a handful. You have the top level guys. But what I love, the minor league teams that I love to watch is, and it's not to belittle, some of the other players that may be in a lineup, but when you can get to number 7 in the order and it's still a guy that, if he homers, I can kind of make a note of it, and keep track of it, or even post the highlight on Twitter because it's relevant enough. That's always nice. So having those lineups that are long with intrigue is always going to be one of my favorite teams. And this is just another one of those.
Talk about a lineup long with intrigue. The freaking Portland Sea Dogs. You had to see this one. Oh my God. I mentioned him on the Just Baseball show, but my good friend Cooper Boardman, who was one of the announcers for the Woo Sox, the Worcester Red Sox, Worcester. What was that? The Worcester Red Sox, Cooper. What I was asking him, I was like, who do you guys have? And he was like, nobody, man. They're all in Portland. And, they've got Richard Fitz, but he was like pissed about it. He's like, they're all in Portland. I was like, York's in Portland? He was decent in Portland last year. He's like, yeah, York's in Portland. So the Portland Sea Dogs, they're big 3 on the mound at this point. Kind of looks like Isaac Coffey, Wickelman Gonzalez, and probably Hunter Dobbins, who I know has some intrigue there as well. But then you jump to the bats, and everybody has intrigue. Kyle Teal. How about Marcelo Meyer? How about Nick York? How about Roman Anthony in the outfield? Blaze Jordan is also there. Edison Paulino is there. My guy, Tyler McDonough is there. Max Ferguson can burn on the base paths. Alex Bonellis once had some prospect intrigue. I mean, this is one of those that 1 through 8, you're locked into what's happening on the iPad.
Oh my gosh. This might be, from a prospect intrigue standpoint, the best lineup in minor league baseball, right? I mean, you're looking at Meyer and Roman Anthony, who are, and Kyle Teal, that's 3 top 50 prospects. York is a really solid outside of top 100 prospect. And then even you mentioned from the pitching side though, too, like I'm really fascinated to see what Wickelman Gonzalez is going to do, because every time he's on the mound, you could see something electric, or you could see some command woes, but that's always worth the watch. And then Isaac Coffey's kind of been the opposite. He's been so consistent and so solid. I'm excited to see if he can build on that, in a full season of AA and maybe even a little AAA later this year. A guy that I honestly wouldn't even be shocked if he debuts later this season.
Yeah. Let's jump to the AA affiliate of the Cubs, the Tennessee Smokies out in Knoxville. Cade Horton is starting there, but the bats, Moises Ballesteros is there. Hayden McGeary, who hits the shit out of the ball, is there. Matt Shaw is a Tennessee Smoky. He finished really hot in AA last year. He starts in AA this year. James Triantos is there. Kevin Alcantara is a Tennessee Smoky. Then you got a guy that is healthy again that I know a lot of Cubs people are really excited about. Cole Roederer is a Tennessee Smoky this year. Not to mention Christian Franklin, Jordan Wogu. Do they still have prospect intrigue? It's the bats that are clearly guiding the way at this point. We'll get to a couple solid pitching rotations, but I mean, Tennessee, again, that feels like a AA murderer's row.
And you even got guys like Hayden McGeary. It can pull so hard. But yeah. I feel like Shaw's not going to be there too long, so I want to soak it up with these guys in the lineup in order while we have it. But the idea of Shaw, Ballesteros, Alcantara, and Triantos, they're going to be probably stacked in some sort of order, maybe one guy in between. That's a really tough stretch for a pitcher to work through. And then you get to go on the other side, and some of those days, on the other half of the inning, you're going to have Cade Horton on the bump.
Yeah.
That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think this team's close, but Portland has a little bit more of the I think higher regarded prospects that I'm going to watch a little bit closer. Yeah. But that said, I mean, I am very fascinated to see what Ballesteros does with the bat this year. It's unfortunate. It looks like the body backed up a little bit this year. But Alcantara is one of the biggest question marks for good and for bad going into this year. And then Triantos is the opposite. He's so solid. It's just an interesting dichotomy in this lineup that makes it, I think, really fun to monitor.
So let me ask you, is Birmingham the best pitching rotation we have in the minor leagues in terms of prospect intrigue? The AA Birmingham Barons, the White Sox AA affiliate, trade galore fills this thing. As of right now, we'd be looking at a 5-man rotation of Drew Thorpe, Jairo Iriarte, Jake Eder, Kai Bush, Jared Kelly.
That's got to be the best, right? That's got to be the best rotation.
I think so. And by results, like, it might not be. It's not going to be AA Tulsa last year.
No.
But, like, I'll see each of those names, and it makes me raise my eyebrows on the MILB app.
I mean, Iriarte and Drew Thorpe I'm tuned into every single time. Yeah. And then Eder, the first half of the season last year, kind of before the trade, looked like a top 100 prospect. I mean, he got the Marlins Jake Berger with years of control straight up for a reason. And then even Bush, I'm a little bit less intrigued by him, but he still comes with some pedigree, has been traded, and I think will be a big league arm in some capacity. That rotation, though, is pretty absurd.
And guess who they're throwing to?
Edgar Carroll.
Edgar Carroll repeating AA. Not to mention you also have Brian Ramos there. Jose Rodriguez, we'll see if he clears waivers. I mean, they DFA'd Jose Rodriguez for Mike Clevenger, which was certainly a choice. And then Tim Elko Hive stand up. So Elko is on this team as well.
Duke Ellis. He can run.
Ellis. He can burn, man.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for the Duke Ellis love.
Did we mention Michael Arias on the Cubs side?
We didn't mention Michael Arias. He's in AA, right?
Yeah, the pitching in the AA for the Smokies is not bad. I'm curious if Arias can fight off the reliever risk, but when you got Horton throwing and then you've got Arias going where there's a chance he can be disgusting any fifth day. It's mid to upper 90s with heavy sink and disgusting changeup. It's just about the command and can he spin some stuff a little bit? But that's still a name that I'm excited to tune into in tandem with that lineup.
Yeah. I actually lied. I think this may be the best rotation in minor league baseball. The Altoona Curve.
Oh, yeah.
Break camp with Braxton Ashcraft, Bubba Chandler, and Anthony Solomito in their rotation, and Thomas Harrington is on their 7-day IL. So at some point, it will be Chandler, Solomito, Ashcraft, and Harrington. That's better than what Chicago's got running out.
They have Eddie Yean.
Yeah.
How is Eddie Yean still 22 years old?
Dude, he got traded when he was like 18. He was a Nats farmhand for a minute.
Even Sean Sullivan, strike thrower, gets outs.
Justin Mize, strike thrower, gets outs.
But, I mean, the idea of Bubba Chandler, Anthony Solomito, Thomas Harrington. I mean, first of all, Bubba Chandler is a top 100 prospect. Solomito is a top 100 prospect. Thomas Harrington was not far off from being a top 100 prospect and was very highly regarded in the Pirates system for us, well inside the top 10. And then Braxton Ashcraft's been super injured over the last few years. We got to see him. He looked pretty good in spring breakout and comes with plenty of intrigue. Go out, have him as a top 10 prospect in the system as well. We had him right around there, just behind, I think, Thomas Harrington. That's got to be as good of a rotation as well as you're going to find. I do think that there's a close to the same amount of intrigue with the White Sox AA affiliate, just because of how much I love Iriarte and Thorpe.
Yeah.
However, every single day you tune into an Altoona Curve game, there's going to be somebody interesting on the mound. And I don't know if it'll be every single day in AA in Birmingham.
Right. The other thing to note is, like Greensboro, I don't have them on the high A list, but they've got Termarr Johnson who could make the jump up. Jack Brannigan seems like a quick mover. Brannigan may join this lineup of bats. Patrick Riley is a guy that we were really impressed with out of the bullpen in that spring breakout game.
Oh, yeah.
He's in Greensboro, but if he's a reliever, he can jump to Altoona quick.
He'll be up quick. Seth Beer on this team, I think.
Sung Chae Chang is on this team, which will be interesting.
Jace Bowen is an electrifying player, too. Watched him leg out an inside the park home run in the Arizona Fall League. He was a legit football player, too. He's just fun to watch do his thing.
And
we'll see if he can hit enough.
Aaron Shackelford can pop like 110s, 112s out of nowhere. He's a shorter, like fire hydrant type first baseman, but like all of a sudden it's 114, one hopping off the wall and right. And it's like, where did that just come from?
Matt Stairs, if we had StatCast data then.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I think that's Aaron Shackelford. 2 more AA teams before we get to 4 high A and 4 low A. We're going to start with the Hartford Yard Goats. Hartford has some bats, man. On the hill, like Jaden Hill, the reliever, is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
How they use Carson Palmquist is going to be interesting. But Drew Romo's in AAA. Everybody else, it seems, is in AA. Adael Amador is in AA. Sterling Thompson is in AA. Yanquiel Fernandez, Benny Montgomery, Zach Veen, and then even guys like Warming Bernabel, who cleared, like he was DFA'd. And then Ryan Ritter is another name too. So they've got bats galore. Really the only 2 bats that they're missing that are in AAA are Romo and Jordan Beck. And that felt a little lofty for both of them.
This is a fun lineup all the way through. Beck felt a little lofty. Romo, he got up there at the end of last year and held his own. And I think they just love the polish. I think Beck could have easily been in this lineup too, but Beck's been showing out in AAA so far. And I know people have been saying, talk about Jordan Beck. We'll get to it. I want to see him do it over a little bit more of a sample. There's definitely been some whiff, but it's fun to see that athleticism play in. But talking about this lineup, man, Amador and Sterling Thompson back-to-back at the top is going to be really frustrating for pitchers because they make so much contact and they're going to give you good ABs. And then on the other side, you're going to have the aggressive and absolutely hard-hitting. And I don't know if this is going to be the exact order, but then you have Yanquiel Fernandez, who can pulverize baseballs. You have Benny Montgomery, who I actually think from a raw power perspective could have as much as just about anybody in the minors that isn't, a top 10 prospect. Like he will hit balls 115, 116. And you're like, whoa, he's just still trying to sort out all the moves in the box. I think he's looked as good as he's ever looked. So you have 2 guys that can produce some of the best EVs you're going to see. You're going to have 2 of the best contact guys, I think, in the org, especially in Adael Amador. And then that's not even mentioning whatever we see from Zach Veen this year, which I think is top of the intrigue. How does he bounce back this season? And then you mentioned Ryan Ritter is just a solid, well-rounded prospect to add into the fold there too. This is one of the better lineups in the minor leagues, I think. This is definitely in tier 1 of the teams we've talked about offensively. And there's enough pitching to where it's I think for Rocky standards, it's more interesting than usual between Palmquist. Even Connor Van Scoyock's been decent. They went out and traded for Mason Albright. He's the top 30 prospect. And then I am very interested in Jaden Hill, the reliever. He's looked good.
Yeah. We've got another Rocky, spoiler alert, but one more AA to wrap. And this is kind of where these teams thin out. Like you'll see a lot of the proximity prospects in the AAA conversation and some in like that loaded AA conversation. Low A, you got to pluck like a couple of guys that are really intriguing young guys to make it an interesting roster. But having said that, I feel like the teams that I've got here, the last AA team and then high A and low A, have enough to get you to tune in. The last AA team that I want to mention is Harrisburg. Harrisburg is interesting. The AA affiliate of the Washington Nationals, the Harrisburg Senators. Cole Henry. Is Cole Henry healthy? We will find out. But offensively, Brady House, Dylan Cruz, and Robert Hassel III are on the same team. James Woods in AAA, but you give me Cruz and House on the same team along with Yo-Yo Morales and, I mean, even a guy like Andrew Pinckney. Like it's interesting enough to me.
No doubt. I mean, Cruz and House back to back. I mean, we got to see that kind of in order a bunch this spring, and you're locked in for both of those guys. And Morales, I have some concerns, but some people I respect in the industry are excited about him. So I'm gonna tune in and watch and see how it looks. He's still super young, I think, relative to a lot of other college guys. When you look at, I think, the experience and how much more projection there can be there and polish. So that's a guy I would love to see. And then how does Hassel, another bounce back guy that you can add to the fold there? I'm with you. I think this lineup is, from the Nationals perspective, when's the last time they've had a minor league lineup really this exciting? Yeah. I don't know if we could really, at the same level, I don't know if we can really say that they've had one like this in a little bit, unless I'm forgetting a time where maybe they overlapped a little bit more last year, but I think this is up there.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't mentioned a Nats team in this, I really think, since we've been doing this, and I
No.
think this is year 3 that we've done this episode.
Yeah, I like where they're headed. I gotta say, I do.
I
You look at what
need to
CJ Abrams is
see.
doing at the big league level, and then now you see this talent matriculating up, and James Wood looking like he's more ready than maybe a lot of people would have thought at this point. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
there's a little bit more pitching. I think that's the one area though. We got to find more pitching in this org, but Cavalli's healthy or getting there. We'll see how Henry looks. This is as good as I felt about the Nationals from just top to bottom of the org in a long time.
I need to see more of a pitching direction before I stamp it and
Yeah.
say I like what they're doing, because there's really not much pitching coming down the pipe. And Josiah Gray, like, with each start, it feels like last year might have been more of a flash in the pan than who Josiah Gray is, which stinks.
Yeah, I am happy that they at least, with all these often injured, exciting guys that they've had with Henry and Cavalli, that they've offset that with some pitchability lefties that just get outs. And I know
Yeah.
you like a couple of them, but I think that part helps a little bit as well.
Yeah, it certainly does. All right, jumping to high A now. Let's start with the Rockies high A affiliate, the Spokane Indians. Chase Dolander and Sean Sullivan are in the same rotation. That's intriguing. Cole
Yeah.
Carrig is on this team. Dion Jorge is on this team. And then you got a guy like Kyle Karros, too, which is interesting. But those two pitchers and Cole Carrig and Jorge is enough.
I mean, I Dolander, I'm going to watch every start. And he's throwing today, and I will be dialed in to that one. I'm Cole Carrig as well, just being a guy that we've kind of like selected as our breakout guy, for one of the breakout guys for the season, the 12 that we talked about that other episode. I'm just eager to see how it continues to translate with everything that we've seen so far. Again, the Rockies, it's crazy to say, but when's the last time you've been this excited about multiple Rockies? We've talked about one Rockies team, but multiple Rockies teams is pretty crazy. I will say, like, it's not as exciting as the other team we talked about, but I'm also going to be tapped into Sean Sullivan anytime he throws. I think he is going to be a guy that maybe has as much helium within the Rockies org besides Cole Carrig, I think, as anybody, because of how funky he is. And I think how easy it's going to be for him to get outs just with the fastball alone at the lower levels.
Yeah, got a loaded high A team coming. 3 more high A teams, 4 low A teams to wrap. But before that, quick break. Okay, the loaded high A team is the high A affiliate of the Cincinnati Reds. Have you seen this Dayton Dragons roster yet?
I've kind of just imagined what it could look like, but I don't know if I've seen the final.
So Rhett Lauder is a Dayton Dragon. And then you also have Cam Collier, Sal Stewart, Jay Allen, Carlos Jorge, Hector Rodriguez, even guys like Victor Acosta and Leo Balcazar. There's a ton of prospects here. You got the top end talent in Lauder. You've got the borderline top 100 talent in Stewart and Cam Collier. And then you have a bunch of guys that Reds fans are excited about, notably Hector Rodriguez.
Yeah, Hector Rodriguez is a guy I know a lot of people are pumped about. And how about the youth, though? I know we're at a lower level now. We're at high A, but still, I mean, Carlos Jorge is like the elder of a lot of these names that you just mentioned at 20 years old, where Sal Stewart just turned 20. Balcazar is not even 20 years old yet. Cam Collier just turned 19 leading into the season. Victor Acosta is not 20 yet. And Hector Rodriguez legitimately just turned 20, I think, like a week or two ago. So there is so much young intrigue there. And then, yeah, from the pitching perspective, to have a Rhett Lauder, that's a guy you've got to tap into every fifth day. Bryce Hubbard, I know, is a name that you're interested in seeing more of as well.
Yep.
The Reds, this is where they've been trending, though. We've had a lot of Reds teams that we're excited about. I'm fascinated of who from this clump of young guys offensively is going to kind of separate and get out of there the quickest. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's going to be Sal Stewart, but I'm excited to just monitor and see how that all shakes out. And even Jay Allen, he's just been so unfortunately hurt. Such a good athlete. I hope he can be healthy. And when he's healthy, I want to see what that looks like.
Yeah, I got to mention my Fort Wayne Tin Caps just because Dylan Lesko is going to be throwing to Ethan Salas, and that's awesome. And you got Homer Bush in the outfield. That's the prospect intrigue. Jagger Haynes, young guy that hasn't performed up to par yet. I think he's been somewhat unavailable too, so we'll see what he can do. But Lesko throwing to Salas, every time I'm tuning into that.
I saw Braden Net in the AFL, and I was impressed. 21. There's some life there. He throws the ball hard. I think that there's plenty to be interested in when you look at the stuff. So Net at least gives him a little bit more to look at on the mound. But yeah, and Griffin Dorsing, anytime he runs into one,
Yeah.
it could go a mile. They kind of got the Josh Mears thing going again, but I don't know if Dorsing's going to whiff as much.
No.
And also Josh Mears is there too. So, I mean, this might be the one team where you got to like be worried about cars across the street if either of those two guys connect.
What there's there's an apartment building over a law office, I want to say, in left field. That's, like one you got to watch out for, but there's a parking lot in right field and there's like a home run deck right there. So look out on the home run deck, I think. Problem is they have, and it's not a problem, it's actually a good thing for cars. They have a lot of space to work with in the outfield. There's really not a street that a ball's going to land on unless you like somehow manage to arc it over the apartment building. And that's a Mickey Mantle type feat.
Or like the fake Ted Williams home run type of feat.
Yeah, right. Like I saw this guy hit a ball 584 feet. No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
We have a chair just sitting there to pretend. But Homer Bush, I'm pumped to see. The fact that he got to double and had success at the end of last year, and now he's back in high A, just classic Padres way of doing things. I know it was just because there was more games.
Salas too.
Yes, Salas too. I think both of those guys are going to be pretty settled in pretty quickly. But Bush especially. I think Bush could end up getting out of Fort Wayne pretty quick.
Yeah. One more high A team, and I do think that I saved the best for last. The Bowling Green Hot Rods, the high A affiliate of the Tampa Bay Rays. Xavier Isaac is a Bowling Green Hot Rod. Braden Taylor joins him, along with Colton Ledbetter, Chandler Simpson, Brock Jones, if you're into that kind of thing. Yoniel Curette is a starting pitcher for them. The pitching is as thin as it's been in quite some time in the Tampa organization right now. Having said that, these bats all being together in high A, Carson's in double A, so you're not going to get to see Carson Williams in Bowling Green, but he was in Bowling Green for the entirety of last year. You replace him with Isaac, Taylor, Ledbetter, and Simpson, electrifying front four.
I agree. I think that's a really fun group at the top of the lineup. And then Trevor Martin, at least on the pitching side, we saw him in that spring breakout game, and I didn't have much on Martin going into that. I was impressed. I thought he looked really good. So at least they have him flanking Curette, who, I mean, we've talked about him in that Rays top prospect episode. The stuff is outrageous. It's just about the command. We'll see, but that's a guy that I want to see how that stuff looks, because when he's anywhere near the zone, it's real tough to hit him. But yeah, I agree that the pitching is a little bit thinner than we're used to, but okay. Instead, I get to watch Xavier Isaac, Braden Taylor, Colton Ledbetter, and arguably the fastest guy in the minor leagues in Chandler Simpson. And then even at the later parts of the lineup, it may not be a ton of intrigue in terms of prospect ranking, but I'm still fascinated to see if a 23-year-old Brock Jones can adjust and bounce back this year and try to take a step in the right direction and see what they got from Cooper Kinney, who it's only 21 years old. So there's still enough in the back half of that lineup to where you're paying attention, and that always makes the team more interesting.
And by the way, Chandler Simpson is the fastest guy in minor league baseball because Victor Scott is a major leaguer.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have to pick sides on that debate for them. We don't want to make any enemies with either of them.
For now, I wonder what happens when Carlson comes back. I hope the Cardinals don't play the seniority card and like, oh, Carlson's been here for a while. Like, Victor Scott is clearly the better option.
Yeah, I agree. I'm interested. I know he hasn't been swinging it great out of the gate, but he's been putting together good ABs. He's stung some balls. I really hope that they give Scott the opportunity to actually play there for a prolonged period of time. And I mean, I think that they are already a year late on trying to move Carlson. I hope they feel comfortable enough now from just the professionalism of Scott to move a Carlson.
Yeah, I'd hope so. And I mean, it seems like they're not necessarily missing Tyler O'Neill just yet. Although Jordan Walker's gotten off to a slow start, we'll see. Whatever. It's time to just like kind of have a changing of the guard in that outfield. 4 teams in low A. How excited are you for this outfield? Rancho Cucamonga, low A of the LA Dodgers. Josue De Paula, Zaire Hope, and Kendall George is going to be the starting outfield. And then you've got Jake Geloff in the infield as well, Zach's younger brother. De Paula, George, Hope is as good of a lower level outfield as we've got.
I can't wait. I'm hoping we get some decent camera angles for these games and I'm planning to do a West Coast road trip, and I want to do it early enough to where I can catch these guys together. Paula's, as you know, one of my favorite guys to watch and one of the guys I'm most excited about in the minor league, still 18 years old. And then Zaire Hope's one of our breakout guys. It's one of the 12 guys that we highlighted as a breakout hitter in the prospect world this year. And then, I just want to see what Geloff can do in an extended pro setting. And then Kendall George, just another super high upside, intriguing bat. I'm with you. I think this has got to be as exciting of a group as you're going to have in the lower levels, because as you mentioned, usually it's just one or two and then a few others that you don't have as much on yet, but you're waiting to see. I think with these guys, I mean, you already have a little bit on each of them, and you're excited to see what more could be there.
Do you know what Kendall George did in 100 plate appearances last year at the Complex and then Rancho? 28 games.
Honestly, no, I don't remember those numbers.
He slashed 370, 458, 420 with 17 stolen bases.
Yeah, I mean, and the fact that that's not going to be he's arguably the third.
Number 3.
He's arguably number 3 for me in terms of who I'm most excited to watch, because Zaire Hope, it's plus speed and maybe plus speed and plus power potential. And then De Paula just being one of my favorite swings in the minors. The fact that the numbers that you just mentioned out of high school is the third most intriguing hitter for me, probably in this group, and it's probably close with Jake Geloff, is a testament to just how fun this low A team is.
Yeah. Get a load of Lynchburg, the Lynchburg Hillcats, which is the low A affiliate of the Cleveland Guardians. Alex Clemmie is in low A already. So Clemmie is going to be in low A. Jackson Humphreys is going to be in low A, a guy that has a bunch of prospect intrigue. And then you jump to the bats. Ralphie Velasquez is in low A. Jason Chorio is in low A. Tommy Hawk, who is the leadoff guy at Wake Forest last year, is in low A. And Angel Ganao is in low A as well. That's a guy that is, I think, a top 15 prospect in the Guardians organization. Big money IFA guy. This is, it's hard to find depth in low A, but this is as deep of a lineup as I think we've got in low A.
And even Rafael Ramirez showed pretty well at the Complex last year as a 17-year-old / 18-year-old. I mean, if Chorio's a guy that the more I watch, the more excited I am about him. Like the more
really
you can start to see the vision a little bit. Like he can hit. He's got a really good feel to hit. It's not as much of just the Chorio name as we see sometimes with like the third and fourth Acuñas before we've really seen much. The swing is pretty darn good in advance, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets pushed a little bit quicker just because of how good he looks. And then Velasquez, one of the better, I think, high school bats in the draft, just being able to see what he can do. I think this has got to be for the Guardians. This is a really fun group compared to, I'm trying to think of the other levels for the Guardians. You look at AA, they've got DeLauder there. There's some other intrigue, but yeah, would you say it's the most exciting group that they have in the minors?
I would think so, because AAA, you've got like Brito and Manzardo, but there isn't really like that stud pitcher to follow. If Espino is healthy, it would help out. But
oh yeah,
like all their pitching prospects are up at this point. It feels like Joey Cantillo's hurt, but Cantillo would be in AAA. And then you kind of have to go across levels. So like, where's Nikhazy? Where's Parker Messick? Where's Tommy Mace? They're all
kind of scattered.
Yeah, they're scattered. But Clemmie throwing to Ralphie Velasquez intrigues the shit out of me.
Oh yeah, I mean the fact, and Clemmie's got to be one of the more notable. We haven't seen much pitching prospects going into this year, and ironically, I think his first start's not even going to have video, which is just classic baseball. And just there's a lot of Guardians fans, I'm sure, that would love to watch him throw with all the buzz that he's had and what we've been able to see in limited looks. The fact that you're going to have an arm that has that much upside and that much helium already at 18 years old in tandem, one throwing to Ralphie Velasquez and just two in tandem with a lot of really intriguing and high upside 18/19-year-old bats. Yeah, you don't get too many low A teams with that kind of on both ends
at all. two more low A teams that I want to walk through. The Fort Myers Mighty Muscles, the low A affiliate of the Minnesota Twins, who just added MILB TV. Congratulations to the Fort Myers Mighty Muscles on doing that. That ballpark can handle it. It's a great ballpark.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So they're awesome. A couple of starters that I'm really intrigued in. Charlie Soto gets to an affiliate. He's a Mighty Muscle. Tanner Hall, another guy that I feel like has kind of flown to the wayside. He was the number 2 behind Hurston Waldrop at Southern Miss before Waldrop transferred to Florida. And Hall was good again last year. 4th round pick by Minnesota this past year. Hall is in low A. And then you go to the bats. Walker Jenkins leads the pack, obviously, top 10 prospect in baseball. But then you got guys like Brandon Winokur in here. Byron Chorio is in here. And then Raindon Cohn, who was an LA Dodger farmhand for a minute. He's here as well. There's enough for me to tune in, highlighted by Jenkins, and then I'll watch a Soto or a Tanner Hall start.
I'm with you. Just Jenkins being on this team alone makes them noteworthy to me. But Soto, we saw the quote unquote pro debut, and you could just see the stuff at that spring breakout game. He was also very amped up and had his family there and everything. So just being able to see him settle in, he's 18 years old, get into the rhythm of a season. He was one of the top prep arms in the class for a reason. He is super talented, and we didn't really get to see him last year. So it's also that anonymity going for him too. Going into the season makes him just even more enticing to watch.
I think the best front 4 in a lineup that we've ever seen in low A, and of course I'm being hyperbolic, but the best front 4 in a lineup that we've got in low A this year is in Modesto, California. Low A affiliate of the Seattle Mariners, the Modesto Nuts, and this is the last team. I do think I saved the best for last. They've got the 3 quasi first rounders all lined up on the same track, highlighted by who has been branded as the next Yordan Alvarez. Colt
by
Emerson,
who?
By a couple people, right? Which there have been people.
I've seen it. No, I've seen it.
Yeah, you've seen it.
It's like, because he works with the same hitting coach, I think, that Yordan worked with.
And he's a huge teenager.
And he's a gigantic, he's a gigantic human being. But that's about where the similarities come to an end.
And a DH. Like, that's kind of where it is. Although Yordan, like, he can't really hold his own in left. But the front 4 in this Modesto lineup, Lazaro Montes, accompanied by Colt Emerson, Ty Pete, and Johnny Farmelo. Holy shit.
Michael Arroyo as well. He can swing it. Like, is he going to be in that lineup or high
A? He's in that lineup. He's in low A.
I mean, you add him in there too. He's a compact guy that hits the ball hard. That's a lineup there where, you're at the game. You're not taking many ABs off, because I don't know what the order is going to be. I'd imagine with how fast Farmelo is, maybe he's at the top. This is what happens when you draft great too, by the way. But just imagining an order somewhere roughly of Farmelo leading off, and then you have Colt Emerson right behind him, and then you have the big Lazaro Montes there, and then after that you have Ty Pete, and then after that you could have Michael Arroyo. Like, that is insane. Where I think the first 5 guys are all top 10 prospects in the system.
Yeah,
that says everything you need to know, I think, on the offensive side.
Yeah, that's what I've got, man. Those are the best rosters in minor league baseball.
Which one are you taking from I am the most intrigued to watch them perspective? From an offensive side, we'll go offense and pitching. From an offensive side, I think I'm going with the Modesto Nuts, just because of how fun Emerson and how high we are on him, how fun Montes can be, how fascinated I am with the speed and power projection combination of Farmelo. And then Ty Pete just being tooled up and showing some great things last year. Like, that might be the lineup I'm most excited for.
So Portland with Teal, Anthony, Meyer, and York is up there for me. And you mix in a guy like Benelis.
Yeah.
I'm here for that. So Portland is there. Hartford's also there with Amador, Veen, Yankiel, Bernabel, Ritter. And then Bowling Green, I got to mention Bowling Green too, with Xavier Isaac, with Colton Ledbetter, Chandler Simpson, Brock Jones, Braden Taylor. So I do lean Portland, but Modesto is second.
Portland, I think I gravitate towards slightly less because I've seen a lot more of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
But from a pure prospect perspective, that's got to be the most intriguing.
Yeah. And then pitching wise for me, it comes down to Altoona and Birmingham. That Altoona quartet, when Harrington is healthy, of Bubba Chandler, Solomito, Ashcraft, and Harrington. And then you've got that Birmingham 5-man rotation of Thorpe, Iriarte, Eater, Kelly, and Kai Bush. I'm taking Altoona over that, but Birmingham is second.
Yeah, I'm with you on there too. I think Birmingham, there might be some days where I'm a little bit more excited just because of how much I like Iriarte and Thorpe. But if you told me, hey, you got to follow this team around for a month and be like their beat writer for a month, I'm probably taking Pittsburgh. Yeah, I'm taking Altoona just because every single day there's still, I think through that entire rotation, there's prospect intrigue. Yeah. But that'll do it for this episode and this week of the Call Up. We have the top 10 prospects in baseball to kick off next week and finally wind down the top 100 breakdown that we've done on the show. And then we'll kind of get right into the regular schedule, 3 a week of the Call Up, with the occasional interview maybe thrown in there for an occasional 4th, or that 3rd episode being an interview. I think next week we may end up squeezing in a 4th or maybe an extra episode this weekend because I still have to put out that Dollander and Kumar Rocker episode. I've just been trying to find the right window because we've been doing so many of these top prospect breakdowns and getting you primed up for the season. We will also be doing our first heat sheet and kind of recap on all of the levels for the subscription-based episode that will be out on Monday, and you can subscribe to that with the link in the episode description. And then I'm going to be trying out, starting this coming week as well, this will be available for everybody, trying out some short-form YouTube content, breaking down some of the things that I saw and like a kind of a 10-minute or maybe less rundown of everything that went on in the minor leagues the week before. But for those who want a little bit more of the data and in-depth information, pitch-to-pitch breakdown, that link is in the episode description for those bonus episodes to get you that edge you need for fantasy, for cards, or just for your fandom. Hope you have a great weekend. Look forward to talking top 10 prospects with you next week. Be sure to tune in to Jack calling Paul Skeens today.
Paul Skeens today, Quinn Priester tomorrow.
So if you catch this episode before the game starts, tune in. Jack will be on the call for Paul Skeens and Quinn Priester, who looked awesome out of the gate. Have a great weekend. Talk to you Monday.